Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. I'm back with my partner in crime, Mr. Tate Mathews. Tate, state wrestling is in the books. Another great showing for WCS, individuals and teams. And in basketball, it's that sad time of year. We're down to 4 boys and 4 girls teams. Half the district has now been eliminated, which we'll get to here in just a second. But we are going to start with state wrestling.
What a great tournament it was at the Williamson County Ag Center. Again, I don't know that it will ever leave there because it's such a great venue to have it, and they do such a great job with it. But what a great place to go watch it. Unbelievable performance by our wrestlers and our teams. And when we get to the team standings, didn't quite get that gold trophy, I guess is what they give the team standings. But, man, did we come close. And it's just it's just a sport that we've always been good at, but the overall, from top to bottom, we've just gotten so good at it, and had so many young people that had just great performances during the Friday, Saturday. It was just a really special weekend, and again, one of my favorite events, and then everybody that puts it on, they do such a great job of it. But it's easy. The only thing maybe is leaving. If you leave at the end of a session, getting out of the parking lot maybe is a little bit longer than you want. But everything else, man, they should do a great job. It's a really well-run event.
Unless you know what you're doing.
Unless you know what you're doing and find a gate that may or may not be unlocked.
If you know what you're doing.
You can get out.
Hey, let's just call it like it is. For years it was, we'll never catch Bradley Central. We'll never catch Cleveland. Let's go ahead and say this. As a county or a district, we're number 1.
Yes.
There's just no question. Bradley Central finished 6th. Dobbins-Bennett, they've been one of those teams too.
Yeah.
They finished 5th. But how about this one? Team standings. Ravenwood, 4th. Summit, 3rd. Nolensville, 2nd. But we got to give them credit. Cleveland first. And listen, we don't do the crime thing on us.
No, never.
Or someone. So I don't know if it's in this. That kind of goes without saying.
Yeah, it's just not even a question.
But get this.
It's such a given that we don't even put it on the rule sheet. It's a given. It's a given. We don't do crime on us.
244.5 points for Cleveland. Second place was 124. Third place was 112. It's just I'm telling you though, we will catch them.
Yeah,
I'm convinced we will. And as a county, again, we are the spot for wrestling.
No doubt about it. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and then you go down, and Independence is at 12th. Brentwood High is at 15th, which just was a down year. I don't necessarily mean down year, but numbers-wise for Brentwood High, they had. And
it's a numbers game at the state wrestling.
Heck yeah, tournament. It is. I mean, you got to have people in a class. If you don't have anybody that qualified, then you don't even stand a chance to get any points, right? But and then Franklin came in 19th, so we had 6 in the top 20, 3 in the top 5. That's unbelievable. And the cool thing about it is, you never knew who it was going to be, but Nolensville, I think a lot of people thought Summit or Nolensville, but pretty late into the day Friday, Ravenwood was sitting in 2nd place.
They were. What the coaches tell me too, it's that semifinal round that's the biggie in terms of really getting those points.
It is.
And that's where Nolensville was able to outshine the others by a little bit.
And Nolensville had 4 in the finals. Summit had 3 in the finals. And I think Cleveland had 6 or they had 6 win it. I mean, it was.
I'm tired of them.
Yeah. Again, no soapbox, but I think Coach Miller would tell you his father he's the GOAT.
He's the GOAT.
What the set of rules Cleveland plays by and the set of rules Summit High School plays by are not the same. They're just not.
It's different.
It's different.
On the Class A side.
You combine Nolensville, Summit, Ravenwood, which that's not quite what it is, but maybe you get a starting lineup out of those 3 schools, that gap, you win a state championship like that.
That is the winner.
That's the winner.
Fairview, 17th in the A division out of 59 teams. For the double A, it's 58 teams there. Summit Girls, 19th, Ravenwood 20th to complete our top 20 conversation. Now, WCS, now listen to this, Tate. 11 finalists with 38 of the 53 qualifiers in Class A, that's Fairview, double A, everybody else, and girls teams. 38 of those 53 medaled, which is pretty darn strong.
Really strong.
finalists, Nolensville, you mentioned, they had 4. Summit had 3, Ravenwood 2, Independence Centennial with 1. So, Tate, why don't you take us through those finalists and how they did?
Well, again, 11 of them, so we were very well represented. But we'll start off at 113. Nolan Barton of Nolensville took the runner-up medal home to Jose Cadero of Cleveland in a 4-2 decision. If you've been paying attention much this year, Cadero had to have been the number 1 in the seedings going into the state tournament. Again, 4-2. He was so close.
Hey, Jose, congratulations, but I'm sick of it.
Sick of it. Well, 138, Maddox Eskew of Ravenwood, runner-up to Kellen Sanders of Cleveland.
Kellen, much respect, but I'm sick of it.
10-1. So got a nice, again, Kellen, one of the best wrestlers in the state. Great job by Maddox. And then when you get into the 165-pound class, we had a runner-up. Now, we'll be talking about it again because that was an all-Wilco final. Matt Anderson, Ravenwood's version of Zach Thomas or Brian Urlacher out there on the gridiron playing on the defensive side, but he lost a 4-1 decision to Brody Melzoni of Nolensville. So, and we'll talk more about that match a little bit later, but that thing was 1-1, I think, with a minute left.
Late.
Those two, the battles, I forgot to look it up. I don't know what got match of the night. I sure hope that one did because that was a great match. But Mathews took home silver for Ravenwood in the 165. Jake Sintel at the 215-pound class, he took home runner-up to Ashton Boswell of Cordova. And then in the 285, Peter Saravino of Summit, who beat Jackson Ard in the semis to get into the finals. He was runner-up to Tyson Russell of Cleveland.
That Savarino Ard match was incredible.
It was incredible.
That happened in the last 7. They had a stoppage. It had 6 seconds. They thought it was 7, maybe it's 9. It was a
Got a little heated.
It was a tough ending.
Tense environment.
You know what was cool about though, and he won't mind me mentioning. I saw Coach Miller. He stopped me, and man, he was emotional about it. Gave him a big hug. I'm just telling. I hated it for Coach Smith and his guy. But I'm just telling you, it was actually awesome.
It is. It was awesome. And those two have had a lot of battles.
They have.
Some really good battles. And they're built different too. When you see them go out there, it's 2 different builds, it's 2 different styles, but they've had some great battles. So, but congratulations to Peter, Jake, Matthew, Maddox, and Nolan on the runner-up. And then the state champions, 144, Riddick Romano of Independence. He defeated Landon McLean of Blackman. He actually pinned him. That was huge. So congratulations on there. Zachary Little of Summit. He takes home the gold, defeating Harlan Hunley of Knoxville Halls, pinned. And then 157, Braden Lynch defeats Jack Anderson of Bartlett, 17-2 in a tech. He had 3 pins leading up to the finals, and then a tech fall. That's pretty dominant. He was named the tournament outstanding wrestler because of that. And then, as we mentioned, in the 165, Brody Melzoni defeated Matthew Anderson 4-1 decision. That happened in less than a half a minute left. And then 190, Chase Mays of Nolensville defeats Blaze Meeks of Blackman 18-4 major decision. So
once again, let's talk about what's going to happen. Don't at me. Jeremy.Qualls at WCS.edu. In fact, Dr. Qualls' name's come up a few times here lately.
It has.
Jeremy.Qualls at WCS.edu.
He's been out of that role for a while now, but I mean, the impression is still,
he's still
the shadow still looms.
He's still responsible for a lot of the negative things.
Yes.
But I agree with him here. There's 4 finalists for the Wilcos. So we're going to have a state champion that won't be at the Wilcos.
I agree 100% that there's 4. You're right. Well,
and who's the winner, man?
Let me,
Leach, back to back, but it doesn't count last year. It's not a 2024,
2025 award.
It's not.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, let's just look at this here. I did a little deep dive on this. You want some of this?
Are these nuggets or morsels?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Okay, let's see it.
Definitely not a gem. That's
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So let's look at we're going to look at the state champions here, but let's look at the state champions from Nolensville. Chase Mays, 50. Talking about when we get into the finals here, 51-1. He lost 1 match. That was to Jay Eversole of Lakeway Christian, don't care about that. Would you like to know what tournament that was?
The Father Ryan, yeah.
The Johnny Drennan Father Ryan
Yes.
Invitational. Again, we talk about, here we got a guy who's 51-1, the state champion at 190. He lost one match.
And I'm going to assume that dude won the state title too.
He did. He's really good. Chase is really good. Brody Melzoni. Yes, there can't be that many Melzonis in Nolensville. He is Coach Johnny Melzoni's son. Very proud of him. You know what? I thought this was pretty cool. This would be a good time to shout it out. We bumped into each other over at the Ag Center. We're talking to Coach Melzoni. And who came down? Who was in town to support his former teammates?
The Has dog.
The Dukes of Hazzard himself, Eric Hazzard, L's up. By the way, he's already put on 10 pounds. He looks fantastic. He's huge. Another little nugget. He wrestled and went to Mill Creek and
That's right.
was teammates with those guys. He came back to watch his Page teammates and watch Brody and those guys wrestle.
What a great young man he is.
What an awesome young man. The hair looked great.
And Coach Melzoni was talking, man, if I had him on the mat, he'd be a state champion.
Yeah, well, Centel was at 215. I mean, it would have, yeah. So this is pretty cool. So, by the way, he was looking good in his L's up, cards, 3-stripe gear. Look, it just looked natural, didn't it?
Head to toe.
Head to toe. Brody was 51-5. He lost twice to Chancery Dean, who was a state champion, a multi-state champion at Father Ryan, and then he lost 3 out of state to 3 out of state champions, all while wrestling at the 175 class before he moved down. Okay, so what I'm saying is, pretty strong resume.
Pretty strong.
And then beats Matt Anderson, who is a really good wrestler. Then you go over to Summit. Okay. Zachary Little was 41-4. He's got a career record of 149-32. Again, this is a 1 year.
We got Mays, right? Yeah, we got him.
Mays and Brody.
Yep.
And then, so Zachary was 41-4. He lost 2 in the Beast of the East tournament to kids out of Pennsylvania, and he lost 2 in Ohio to kids out of Ohio. So again, state champion, no losses in the state of Tennessee. Braden Leach, 2-time state champ, 35-2. Tournament outstanding winners. His first 3 matches were pins. The final was a tech fall, 17-2. That's boat race.
It's a boat race.
That's bad.
I hate to boat race a wrestler because it's so tough.
I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it because if you're in Jack Anderson, don't know you. You're in that match.
Much respect.
You get much respect.
I'm not tired of you, Jack.
Not at all.
But much respect.
Both of his losses were to kids out of Pennsylvania. So never lost to a kid in state. And then Romano, he gets his, defeats Landon McLean, pins. Think about that. Landon McLean's from Blackman. He's an all mid-state wrestler. He's had a heck of a career. You get all the way to you want to talk about dominate. You get pinned. Getting pinned is never fun. Getting pinned in the state championship match, that's no fun at all. And think about this. Riddick would be a 2-time state champion. You remember who he faced in the finals last year?
Mr. DeSalle.
Who I think did win the Wilco, correct? So, golly, man.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Hey, I did want to mention, too, Evie Manji of Centennial. Yes. She was also a runner-up to a young lady, Easton Dadiamoff. I'm probably butchered that name.
I think you nailed it.
Montgomery Central, they got a pretty good little program going. So, congratulations to Evie as well. Another just great year for wrestling.
Yeah.
I love the wrestling, man. I love it.
It's awesome.
I really do. It's one of the sports that I watch some, but not much because think about it. I couldn't because I was coaching basketball. Yeah, so I really couldn't go watch. I mean, I'd go sometimes at the end. Coach Roberts, some of his teams at Beach, I watch from time to time. But I've watched, obviously in this role, a lot of wrestling, and I've got so much respect for it. It's just, it is you and someone else in fighting, as your buddy used to say.
Yes.
It was
Randy Thomas from Springfield. He coached Mark Reeves.
And by the way, Mark Reeves' son, he medaled.
He did?
Got beat in the semis. I don't know how he did in his next match, but he medaled, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, we had a lot of former coaches. There were some injuries, so I don't know what we can and can't say, but I don't want to go down that path. But we got a lot of we got a lot of coaches who were former wrestlers but are now coaches whose sons are now, That article. Hey, by the way, I'm glad you said
Great article by Charles Pulliam.
that article Pulliam did in the Williamson Herald about the coaches and their wrestling careers, and some of those pictures were fantastic.
Hey,
you can tell the ones that were better.
Not all pics were created equal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But he's. I hate to like we're playing favorites, but it's just because he's such a big guy. I mean, Melzoni's had to be the best, right? I mean, I bet when the big fella walked on the mat, the gym changed a little bit. So that was a great article. But yeah, it's a great event, man. It's a great sport. It's, I'm. It sounds like, and I'm not, but a guy like Matt Anderson, though, I mean, like they made it to the semis. He didn't even start. You know what I'm saying? He didn't even start the season until 3 weeks of practice, 4 weeks of practice. There's no way to be in wrestling shape by playing football. So it took him a few weeks to get in wrestling shape, man. That's the type of guy you want on your football team, man.
And Miss Hester, I know you watching. And she says,
is she watching on NFHS or is she watching on YouTube?
That's another story for another day.
I love you, Mimi.
But she said, he gets mentioned a lot. I'm like, what? But he deserves to. Coach Hester, Coach Pack, what'd he say? I saw him at the state meet, and he said, love Coach Hester. Because he's okay with this.
Yeah.
He wants them to compete. He goes to the matches. So I think that's a real cool thing.
Hey, speaking of, let's talk about that, because I think it's probably a long shot. You talk about Coach of the Year at the Wilcos. Heck, Nolensville second place. Summit got second in the team duels. But I think if you poll the wrestling coaches, I think they'll tell you. Have they voted on that yet? Have they done?
Yeah, the region coach.
Who won it?
He got it.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
Peck.
Mm-hmm.
He should have. I mean, that guy did an unbelievable job.
He did.
That program had fallen off. He got it back real fast. Again, 3, 4 o'clock before the semifinals on Friday, they were in second place of the whole meet. Yeah. So that's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun to watch.
So we put a bow on wrestling. Just another great season. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, let's talk a little hoops, Tate. So we had the basketball district tournament. Again, we had some elimination games. So let's just go through the quarterfinal results real quick. I'll take care of it. Girls side, quarterfinals. Okay. Number 1 seed, Brentwood, 80-14 over number 8, Centennial. Number 2, Nolensville, 26 winners over Ravenwood. Page defeats Summit as the number 3 seed versus 6, 46-22. Franklin, that's the one that was in question, 65-56. In that game, 3 players in double figures, which for Franklin hadn't really been the case. It was Brandamore, of course. We decided she was Miss Double, Double, Double. She gets a double-double in each half.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Yes.
Molly Force, and then a young sophomore, Mary Henson Crunk, stepped up and had a great game. She was double figures. It's the reason they won.
Yes.
65-56. Congratulations, though, to Coach Jackson. Did a good job there in her first year at Indy.
Great job.
So now we got the semis, which we'll go over here in just a second. Boys quarterfinals. 1, Franklin, 67, Ravenwood, 30. Brentwood, number 2, falls to Nolensville, 47-52. So it's the only top seed that didn't win that first round. Indy over Page, 52-44, 3 versus 6. And then Centennial, 49-40 versus Summit. You hate it for Coach Crane and his squad. They had such a great year. But Coach Moore in Nolensville felt it last year. They were people forget because it's the tournament. It's what you remember in basketball. It's a tournament sport, really. They all are, but basketball more than any. People remember the tournament. Coach Moore's squad, the 3 seed, had a great year. Brentwood at 5-9 knocks them off as the 6 seed. They take it all the way to the state tournament. So Centennial advances. This year Brentwood doesn't, but more good things coming for Coach Crane and the Bruins.
First year as the head. It's not his first year as a head coach, but it's his first year as a head basketball coach. It's his first year as the head basketball coach at Brentwood, and I thought he did an unbelievable job, man. I know he did. Basketball coaches will tell you he did an unbelievable job. And it's funny you said that about because you are one, but the people remember the tournaments, but more than any group of people, coaches. Like he's not really in the headspace right now of, hey man, great job, I'm proud of you. Hey man,
I hadn't even called him yet.
we got beat.
I hadn't called him yet.
He doesn't want to hear all that.
I hadn't called him yet.
And I get it and I respect it, but no, they did a great job. But that's what's so cool about this league, man, is you talked about it a few weeks ago on the show. This used to be viewed as an offensive league. Not anymore. This is a defensive league, and everybody can play defense. And they had a great game plan. They had seen them twice now. Think about it. Going into the game, Nolensville had about as bad of a February and into January as they can. They had lost 4 district games in a row. It wasn't looking good, but they went out there, D'd it up, and, had to think if Brentwood scored under 50 points, they were going to win, which is exactly what happened. And Kyson Barney stepped up big, had a big night, but they played great defensively. So really happy for Coach Gadice and the Knights. Really sad for Coach Crane and the Bruins.
That's the way it is. It's the way it is. Hey, here's something on that boys' side, and this counts as semifinals too, which let me go ahead and give you those scores before we give you the girls' scores. Franklin, number 1, Battle of Franklin. Centennial played well, especially towards the end of that game, 48-43. And then Independence defeats Nolensville 52-40. But if you look at those boys' scores, outside of Franklin scoring 67, the highest score was 52.
Yeah, by Independence and Nolensville.
In the other game. So,
I think something that's good. Can I make a comment on one of those?
Sure.
You know what I think's not getting enough credit is the defense that Franklin's playing.
Played great defense.
Because everybody thinks of Chris, and the way they've played in the past, and they can put up big have big output on offense any given night. Centennial's got 3 legit double-figure guys.
They average double figures.
Yeah, and that 3 legit 20-point guys any given night, and to hold them to 43 points, man, that's I don't care what was going on that night, new rims, whatever. That's some dang good defense.
They played great defense. Hey, let's talk girls semifinals. Brentwood 61-48 over Franklin, and Franklin, again, toe-to-toe with them. Yeah. They just battled.
That score is misleading for what the game really was.
Ella Ryan over 30 again. It's just...
No answer. But Brentwood really doesn't have an answer for Brandamore.
No, not really. They don't. It's just their answer. I guess their question's harder to solve.
Yes.
Nolensville Page. Now, that was the one. I thought that was the toss-up. Nolensville 43, Page 49. Again, that was a nip and tuck kind of game. Really, they both played good defense. The difference in that game, honestly, was free throw shooting. Nolensville missed some big free throws. That's kind of been an Achilles heel for them a little bit. Page makes them when they matter. Great, hotly contested game. 49-43 to move on to the finals. And I do want to give a shout out. Coach Michael McNutt, Tristan Brown, who are the marketing teachers there at Page. They had their group out there working the event. They did a great job. They had a whole team of students. They had graphics and halftime events, and they looked great. They had on their Adidas red shirts where you knew who they were if you had a question with the 10-4A logo on it. So it looked great. But they did a wonderful job. Of course, we had outside the lines in the house too, but they also, OTL, worked that state tournament as well.
OTL was everywhere at the wrestling tournament.
The graphics, the video packages that came out at the end.
Who was in charge of the when the team would win and they'd go over and move over their name on the brackets? Was that the Page media or was that outside the line?
That was Page. Now, Kyla Davis, who's a Page student, was involved in that.
I thought that was great.
It was great how they put And what was funny?
See them celebrate together.
What was funny is Coach McNutt was saying, this surprised me. I think the boys liked it even more than the girls. He said, I thought the girls would like it more, so the boys were really into it.
Did you see on TV?
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Aaron Powers there at the state wrestling. David Riley was out there helping her too.
They had it going on.
A.B. Basta, Luke Campbell. I'm just telling you, what these young people do and what they can produce is incredible.
Incredible.
It really is. Just check them out on social media. All right, let's do I've got a gym, Tate, that we got to talk about real quick. I apologize to my Franklin people. This is courtesy of our man, Joe Williams.
He's a pro.
He's a pro. The Brentwood girls are now 15-0 versus Franklin in this decade. The last win for Franklin was January 2019. I added a little bit to this. I went and looked up the actual game. 56-53 at Brentwood. Head coach at the time, the Wolfman, John Wild. So I do think Franklin will snap that streak next year. Brandon Moore coming back. They've got one senior. Franklin does.
Yeah, no, they're strong. I love what they're doing. But are we doing picks or anything like that? Because I was going to say, I feel like Brentwood's starting to pull away a little bit.
I'm talking next year, though.
I know, but
okay.
I think he's got this thing.
Okay. Well, let's look at our games and talk about
it.
Okay. By the way, I did want to mention this. Fairview girls and boys are still alive. They're in the district consolation at the time of the taping of the show. All right, let's talk about this. Brentwood Page, Girls Championship, Nolensville Franklin, consolation. Here's what's important. You better win that consolation because if you lose, you're going on the road to Coffee County more than likely.
You don't want to go there. Outside of being able to eat at the Jiffy Burger,
that's
cash or check, no credit cards. Ask the Wolfman, it's true.
That's more than likely an L. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think Nolensville's got the better chance.
You'll have to play your best game of the year.
You will. So that's big because of that. Championship game, Brentwood versus Page at Page. So if we're going to have picks, I mean, let's go ahead and pick. I'm going to go Nolensville. And although it's at Page, I'm going to agree with you because you're talking about pulling away. I'm going with Brentwood.
Yeah, I agree. I think we talk about matchups all the time. For some reason, I think Franklin gives Brentwood more trouble than they give Nolensville, which is crazy, but I just believe it. So I think that's like the worst matchup for Franklin was Nolensville. I think they would have rather seen Page, I guess is what I'm saying, which sounds crazy. But I'm going Nolensville and I'm going Brentwood. I know it had been closer. I just feel like Brentwood's pulling away a little bit, and they got the best player who is playing with a lot of confidence right now and has the green light.
Boys final. Now, whether I believe this or not, and I'm going to tell you I do, because we're going to go back to media day. This is great because you and I.
Oh, we have receipts.
Our picks, you said Franklin would be the district champion. Your outside pick was Centennial.
Correct.
And Centennial's still in the mix.
Yep.
And by the way, this will be the 4 teams in the region semis.
Right.
Because we're going to sweep. You can write it down.
Just take the broom on the road. Who do we know those 4 yet?
There was an upset.
I felt like there was.
So it's Lincoln, Warren, Coffee, Columbia maybe. I don't know. We're sweeping is what I'm telling you. We almost swept last year. Franklin, Indy. Again, you picked Franklin to start off, which was a great pick. And I said the district championship goes through Indy because they've won 2 in a row. And listen to their last 3 years. Sectional final. They lose to my man, Jimmy Mack over at Lebanon. Had a great team. Mr.
Great
Basketball on that team.
Hall, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Runner-up to Memphis Overton. State champion defeated Cookeville. They had
pretty good run.
They had a different look about them, I'm telling you, the other night. Tournament Thailand was rolling. Nick Degnan played great. I'm going to, in the third place game, I'm going Centennial. And I'm going Independence to win the district championship.
I agree on Centennial, although Nolensville is playing really well right now. I agree on Centennial. I think they're going to get the win. And man, you're right. Tournament Thailand, that's good.
Tournament Thailand.
I like that one. That's T-shirts.
Hey, 2 straight region MVPs.
And should be.
Sophomore and junior.
The defense they are playing right now is lights out. However, I just can't shake the, what was it, 44-22 victory that I witnessed happen over off Hillsborough Road.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be a Page.
It was a beatdown.
Scoreless first quarter. So what I'm saying is, here's the difference. Years past, I'm going with Independence, but I think this is the year Franklin gets them for a couple of reasons. One, they're better on offense. And going back to what we said earlier in the show, I don't think Franklin's defense, they held Independence to 0 points in a quarter.
And no field goals in the fourth.
No field goals in the fourth. Independence. Degman's playing lights out right now. I think Franklin gets the win, but it's Franklin's defense that is the reason why.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say this too. I want to go on record as saying this. They'll play again in the region final.
Good chance. Unless Centennial's got something to say about it.
You kind of like it because it was your pick.
Kind of like it.
You kind of like it.
No, it'd make me really happy if it's, well, no, that's not fair. If it ends up being Franklin Centennial, then maybe I redeem.
That'd be fun too.
Maybe I redeem the massacre that's been happening in Pickens and football the last 2 years.
Tate, glad you were here today.
Yeah, man, it's always fun.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to talking more hoops next week. And you always say it, spring is in the air.
I can hear the bats. I can hear the balls coming off the bats. Hey, we got
the whiz of a lacrosse.
We're going to be talking lacrosse.
Is that a ball?
Yes, it's a ball. Yeah.
I didn't know if it had some old school name that I wasn't familiar with.
Just a ball. And don't forget, we got the Wilcos and we got the Hartman relays right around the corner.
Hey, how about this one? Flag football. Credit to Mark North, who we ran into at the wrestling championships of Metro Nashville. They jumped in on flag football in year 2. We've got a 3-week segment where it's WCS and Metro Nashville playing.
It was pretty cool seeing you
fun.
two talk about it. That is going to be great.
It's going to be
great.
great.
I think as excited as I told him that. I don't know that anybody can be more excited about you and more supportive of girls flag football in the position you're in than you're at. But he's just as excited about it. He's just as enthusiastic about it. And I thought that, but I think the girls are excited about it.
They're excited.
You know, it's been Wilco on Wilco crime, right? They're getting ready to take it out on some other people. That's going to be fun.
It's going to be
That's
fun.
a great crossover.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Tate, we'll talk about it next week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us for Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.